dude, talk to me about moving. Talk to me, like, you've just moved, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you've had to move all of your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, okay, and I will say this. So I still have access to that old space, so I still have some of my stuff there. So when I'm doing YouTube shoots and I need to have like all my audio gear, I still do it there, but I'm doing podcast interviews and like, you know, tracking, like lighter tracking from this space, which is good. But I mean, yeah,
I dreaded it for you. I've moved house, dude, with all of the gear that comes with sort of like having it's enough. Did you like? How did you do the basses? Like, did you like? So did you just sort of like do them all at once, or I'm doing
them sparingly. We have the luxury of not having to be out of there right away. So every time I go and I do a YouTube video over there, I then bring back like a carload full of basses.
Because you have quite a few basses.
Yeah, I have a few, and I've got all the cases too. Like I can't bring myself to get rid of the cases. And my sweet wife, man, she's like, "What?" She's not saying throw away those cases. She's like, there's like a crawl space, kind of like this little like almost crawl space closet. She's like, maybe that's just the base case closet. Like, oh, she's so nice. I feel like most people would be like, get rid of those.
I didn't even think about the case. I didn't even think about the cases.
Dude, so I have...
They're kind of the big problem, aren't they?
Yes, because you can stack instruments in boats. Like I have those cases that they go sideways into, right?
Oh, you've got those sexy, like, what are they called? Boats, yeah.
Boats, yeah. Or at least that's what they're called in like the touring. Like the first time I heard that, someone's like, you got a guitar boat? And I'm like a boat that's shaped like a guitar. He's like,
I'm looking on a guitar boat.
Yeah.
Guitar boat. Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Oh, dudes, just stop the podcast right now. Go look at guitar boats. These are like sexy. They're actually...
I mean, I don't have anything custom made or anything. I just have like the Fender. Fender makes kind of a cool seven guitar stand where you can line up 7 instruments, and the actual case looks like a Fender hardshell case. I have a couple of those, and then I just have a couple of like K&M stands that just... I think you have some of those too, Scott. You have something where they stack in.
But I've got I'm looking at these sort of like guitar boats. I'm actually going to retract my initial statement. I was like, oh yeah, it is guitar boat. Actually, I put guitar boat in, and then I went to images, and all of the images are actually of a man in a massive boat that looks like a guitar.
But, that's what I thought in the beginning.
Yeah. But it looks like Google understands, because of the power of Google, they understand the terminology of guitar. They understand what I want to see, and they have shown me lots of posh cases with like that velvety material.
It's so fancy. Yeah, I have a whole...
It's one of them sort of like mattresses that just like are so awesome that you kind of sink into them. It's
maybe like a memory foam.
Yeah, it's like a memory foam mattress for your bass.
Yeah, in this new space, I'm against like this is out to the backyard here, but I'm gonna start to shoot against this mantle. There's like a fireplace over here and all this shelving, and I just need to redo it because it's horrible at the moment. But after we redo it, that's gonna be the new shot. I'm really excited. So I actually have a couple contractors coming over to give me bids, and I'm going to make it really cool. And I'll bring everybody along on Instagram on that process.
And we just like I just interrupted you earlier as well. Were you about to out yourself in terms of how many basses you were talking about cases, and then you kind of went, because like I've got and then I interrupted at that critical point. Dude. I stupidly said something. Were you about to out yourself? I know it's more than 30.
It is more than 30.
It is more than 30.
I mean, just in terms of hardshell cases, there's got to be
how many cases have you got?
Dude, in between 30 and 40, for sure. And that doesn't even include the gig bags. It's a problem, dude. It's a problem. I feel like we just made an episode, not too long ago on like music listening habits and why you need to, and don't be looking at reverb and Talkbass and eBay. You should be listening to music, and that's the way. But I am a walking contradiction, man. Part of it is I love how they look and feel and the aesthetic and like everything about bass guitar design. Everything is so fascinating and cool to me that I find that I just get like pulled in, I mean,
yeah. Well, dude, we talked about, what was that episode that we did? We called it, I think, is the golden age of boutique basses dead? And we went deep. We went deep into talking about luthiers and artisan bakeries and so good.
Yes.
But like, it got me thinking about, I guess because I'm the same as you. Well, maybe I'm not the same as you. You can let me know, but I have guilt. Every time I buy a bass,
same.
I feel a little guilty because I'm like, I don't really need this. I could just have one bass.
Yes.
And when we were talking about all of those, boutique basses, and we actually talked about other things in that episode, highly recommend that you go check that out. It was a couple of episodes ago. It's called Is the Golden Age of Boutique Basses Dead? Go check out that episode if you haven't already. And we talked about the fact that, all of the legendary boutique makers, Mike Tobias, Vinny Federa, the guy, Carl Thompson, there's a bunch of them, right? They all kind of started around the same time. Sadowski.
Yeah.
They all started around the same time, late 70s, early 80s, and they're all in their late 60s, early 70s now.
Yes.
Sorry, I said that wrong. And they all started making basses in the late 70s, early 80s.
That's right.
And then they're all in their late 60s and early 70s now.
Yes.
Meaning that if there is nobody to hand the mantle to take over the business, these bass manufacturers will cease to exist.
Right.
They won't make basses anymore. We've seen that. We're just seeing it in the UK here, status basses, or you guys call them status basses, that, Mark King kind of was like the guy who I think, playing those basses. They've just folded. They're not going to, all of the guys were late 60s. They want to retire. There was nobody to hand the mantle to, so they are out. No more status basses. And you kind of sort of like made a comment in that episode, and you said, if people are looking at the instruments now thinking, oh, like these are really expensive, it's like $6,000 or whatever to buy a bass, you made this comment, you were like, it's going to go up.
Just wait.
It's going to go up. And I think that you know a lot about basses. You have a lot of basses. And what I wanted to ask you is, if you look at the last 10 years of you putting your bass collection together. By the way, side note, since kind of like us geeking out about basses, it's the first time in my life that I'm like, I actually want a bass collection. I'm like, ooh, we were talking about a few days ago. You were telling me about Geddy Lee and his bass collection. I was like, oh, I really want a bass collection. Anyway, I'll get back on point. With your bass collection, right?
It's music to my ears, dude.
Yeah, right. So that obviously, the title of this episode is, can you spend thousands of dollars on basses but actually make money in the long run? Like, yes, we feel guilty about it now, but considering if you are intentional about the type of bass that you're purchasing, right, over time, will it be worth more or possibly a lot more than when you first bought it? Could you speak to that a little bit? And like, I would love to know if you've got a general idea of, if you buy like, how much does a bass go up? And like hypothetically say, like, Ken Smith, Federa, all of those types of like, and Fenders, how much do they go up in a decade?
Yeah.
Go. Ian Allison, go.
I mean, first of all, can you make money? Do you mean, would you make money if you sold the collection? Is that what you mean by, can you make money?
Is it going up in value?
Yeah.
Down in value?
Yeah. Is this a commodity that's going to appreciate or depreciate?
Yes. If we got sort of like $10,000 and we spent it on a car tomorrow, in 10 years, that car pretty much is going to be worth a fraction of what you spent on it, right?
Yes.
Bases,
unless you're way into cars and you know the model that, I know,
exactly.
Right?
Bases are different. Bases are different, right?
I think that's right. And I don't know that every single instrument that you buy is going to go up. I mean, there's probably certain brands. There's stuff that is seems like they go through this phase of like, ooh, they fall out of fashion, and then they go, the deals are great, and then that's the best time to buy, because inevitably everything comes back around. All the things that I didn't think, I never thought the 80s basses were going to come back. I never thought the 90s basses. There was a time when you could buy a Ken Smith bass for a fraction of what they cost now. Used Ken Smiths were selling for like $2,000, and now they're like 10. Yeah. I mean, it's wild. And so everything does come back around. But I think if you are excited about it, it's actually a really fun way to invest money. The thing is, they're not easy to sell, right? But they're easier to sell than a house. They're easier to sell in many ways than a car. I mean, there are a lot of websites that you can put them on. I mean, even Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. I'm not buying this stuff to make money and sell, but it is wild to see the value of this stuff go up. And let me just speak to vintage for a moment. So like vintage Fender, right? And Gibson and Hofner and all that stuff. We all know that stuff has really gone up. There, no one's making a 60s jazz bass anymore. But here's something interesting. I bought a 65 Precision bass. I think it was about 5 years ago. And I bought that bass, I think, for $5,000, or maybe it was $5,500. And it's super clean. It's a Sunburst L plate. I just have it here. Let me grab it.
Go for it, man. What year is it? 60?
It's a 65. And 65. So if you're watching the podcast, and it's beautiful. It looks almost brand new. It's crazy with that crazy old tortoiseshell and, the great spaghetti logo and, and this perfect, amazing P-bass neck and the L plate on it. And I mean, it's lovely. It's when they used to hand spray all the,
and you got
sunburst
that for
finishes.
$5,500.
Yes. And now I think this bass is worth over $10,000.
So it doubled in 5 years.
Doubled in 5 years. And we experienced a big spike during COVID. I remember when COVID happened, I've said this numerous times, that I thought the value was going to fall out. I mean, and I remember too, like you contacted me during COVID and you were like, we just don't know what's going to happen with the business. Like nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
You were you were so nice to me. You were like, hey man, like I know everybody's really hurting. Like maybe, I don't know what's going to happen with our business, but maybe we could throw you a seminar. Like pay you like $150 to do a seminar. I'm like, great, dude. Yeah. Yes, please.
Because everybody lost gigs, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah. Dude, and you were reaching out. That was really cool of you, actually. But everyone was scared. We didn't know what was going to happen. And I just sort of wondered, will these just be useless? Will they be firewood in the apocalypse? And no, they actually went screaming through the roof. And I don't know that there has ever been a period where we've seen like a hard fall, like the bubble has never burst in the vintage guitar market. I think that that's true. There might be someone that says, well, there was a period where they went down a little, but it wasn't like, oh man, now these things are worth nothing. That is not going to happen. Even with the advent of all this technology and AI music and all that, people will always, at least for the next 100 years, I think, will always want, I'm trying to think like, is there like a really high market for vintage lutes? But probably there is actually. So I do think it's a good investment. And I've told this before too, but I have a really great friend named Dan Folds who says, if you're a player, and you're a musician, you like basses, guitars, whatever, and you also are motivated by them aesthetically, like you think they're beautiful, like art. He's like, it's the best art you can buy because it's really the only art that makes art. So he calls it double art. He's like, think about it. He's like, think about it. You buy this thing, you could buy a painting for $5,000 and it would sit on your wall and it would do nothing. But this, this is a tool to make art. Are you kidding me, dude? You buy this for $5,000. It's going up over time. In 5 years, it's worth 10, and you can play it on records and make art with it. And like, dude, it is the most intoxicating commodity to buy of all time for me.
No shit, dude. You've nearly got 40 of them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's wild. I don't think, like, if I looked around my collection, I don't even like to use that word because I have a bad connotation for like collector. To me, like, collector means not a player, and that is not what I am. I definitely am.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Dude, you are a bass collector.
God damn it, dude.
It's okay, dude. It's okay. Geddy Lee's a bass collector as well.
Yeah,
He's cool.
He is.
Oh,
that
dude,
gives me a little more. I know. It's bad.
Sleep easy, dude.
Yeah.
Sleep easy. You're inspiring me to do it.
Oh, it's so funny. I mean, I think that there isn't a single instrument that I've purchased that has like, oh no, now this isn't worth anything anymore. That just doesn't happen in this market.
Yeah.
Now, that said, it is a little bit of a misnomer to think like, oh, I'm going to buy this collection of basses and that's going to put my kids through college, or like you hear crap like that. Yeah. And that's just not very realistic. Or like, oh, this is my life savings. And so when I die, like my kids will sell them and make all this money. Well, it's hard. If you don't know what you're doing, it's difficult to sell them, and get top dollar for them. So don't think like, oh, if you sink, 10 grand into bass guitars, that then you're going to be able to trade them like stocks. You got to freaking save the case, and you got to dust them, and you got to play them, and you got to lemon oil the fingerboard, and you got to, tweak the action. And it's a responsibility, but it's a responsibility that I'm happy to take on, baby.
Absolutely, man. And it is, I guess it's sort of like, it does make me feel a little, it lightens the load though, honestly, when I think that, hey, I'm going to be buying this bass, let's say it's like 5K or something like that. If you buy the right bass, it's not going to go down in value.
No,
that
it won't.
It makes me feel good. I'm like, even if it doesn't go up in value, it's like, oh, bought this bass for 5K. If I don't like it, I'll get 5K for it. Oh, thereabouts.
Seriously,
maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. That is pretty cool, actually, knowing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are very few commodities that's true of, right? I mean, homes, maybe. And I don't know, maybe you gamble with coins or stamps. I don't know. But like, there are very few commodities that just don't lose all their value. Think about computers. Think about what we spend on smart devices, laptops, phones. Dude. And I know the value of them is very high because we use them. We're addicted to them. We're using them to do this right now.
Yeah.
But in terms of the monetary value, they completely die off. It's brutal. And then, although then, there are like those first edition iPods that are worth, some of that stuff is nostalgia coming back around again. But
absolutely.
And sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm hearing these numbers that we're throwing around, and it can sound a little bougie, right? Like if you're listening to this and you're going, God damn it, you guys. Like if you're thinking I'm never going to buy a $5,000 bass, I hear you. First of all, I didn't come up with money to do that. I remember, I've told the story of like saving up all this money from like mowing lawns and birthday money and like, and a job and playing gigs to buy a Carvin, LB76 for $700 when I wanted a Ken Smith, right? But the thing that I want to say is, even if you're not playing in this budget, it's still a good investment. Like, even Squier instruments they don't go down. It's not like, you cannot find a Fender product, like a bass guitar that says Fender or Squier on the headstock, for like under $200. You just can't do it. So it's not like you buy a $300 Squier and then it's worth $50. That is not happening. And then some of the old Squiers are worth money. I was just laughing with Corey Wong, man, because we did this thing for the Slap Bass Accelerator. Yeah, we did an interview, and we were talking about how like the Highway 1 Strat that he loves, like those guitars were not expensive when they came out, and they were they were considered, they were like mid-level. Maybe they were made in the US, or maybe Mexico, but they had like nicer appointments. I can't remember, but they were like a middle not a high-end guitar, not even high-end for just the straight American line, like certainly not custom shop, kind of mid-level. And now that stuff is going for big money. It's probably because of Corey.
There's some weird stuff in the outlier stuff that does go up. What are the sure bets, though? Like if somebody came to you and they were like, you know what, I want to start like a little bass collection. I want to get into it. I don't want to lose money. I'm into vintage instruments. Where would you pick five basses that you'll be like, you can put your money here, and it's cool, all's good. In fact, it probably will go up over time.
The ones that I've seen go up, and I wish that I bought 30 more. Back in the day, Fender is 100% a sure thing for me.
Which Fender? Like the vintage ones?
Anything.
Almost
anything. It won't lose its value, especially if you buy it used, right? Now, there's certain things from the custom shop, like the active jazz basses are lower on that list. But if you're buying something used that says Fender on the headstock, it's not going to go down from there. And certainly vintage. If you have the money to buy a conversation piece or a really beautiful instrument, like this, like a 65 P bass, even now when they're 10, in 5 years, they're going to be 15. So if you can and you want to, do it. It's never a bad time to do it. And then also, so Fender for sure, and vintage Fender. And people sleep on weird designs on Fender. Like, check this out. I bought the first year of the Music Master Fender, which is a student instrument, crappy short scale in quotes, in Daphne Blue, 1971, Daphne Blue, rare color, the original fish head tuners on it. I bought that on Craigslist for $900. It's worth $4,000. That was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. It tripled. Quadrupled. It's worth $3,000 or $4,000 now. It's crazy.
So it was a limited edition color.
No, well, it was just, that year they made that color, and then I don't know if they made it in 72 or whatever. But, it's like, it's that blue that you imagine, like if you think of the JMJ Mustang or something, it's that cool kind of light blue color. Yeah. And it's incredible. And it wasn't seen as like this is going to be worth something. But I remember thinking like, $900 for a 70s Fender doesn't matter what it is.
This is going
It's going up. I also bought a 66 Mustang first year they made them in Dakota Red on eBay years ago, and it was like $1,100. That instrument now $5,000, $6,000, I don't know. It's crazy.
See, this is cool, dude. Everybody's talking about freaking Pokemon cards. Get out of my life. Let's talk about bases. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's like trading Pokemon cards.
Dude, I've got these two short scales. Let me just show them to you.
Oh man. This is basically what we're doing. What we're doing here, if anybody's like, what even is this conversation about? This is what you can go straight to your spouse and say, this is not a waste of money. If we invest this money into this here Fender and I keep it for 5 years, that's 5 years of enjoyment. I'm going to be happier, meaning you're going to be happier. And then we can sell it if we want to for more money. It's awesome. Go tell your spouses.
Yeah. Dude, that's what you say. And then you're like, but secretly you're like, I will never sell this.
Exactly.
Terrible. But that's the 66 Mustang. Here's this cool, this headstock is incredible. Those original paddle tuners and this weird logo. They tacked that word bass on the end because they didn't have bass in the swoop font yet. Yeah. So this is the first one's just said Fender on the headstock. This one is got this other logo. And then here's this blue Music Master I was telling you about. It's this thing, right?
Oh, I've seen that one. Yeah, it looks killer.
Yeah, they're so cool. And check it out. The fish head tuners are so interesting. They never did this on any other instrument. Wow. And it's like, this was on Craigslist for $900, and so yes,
I've got more questions. I've got more questions. Okay, I want more. So Fender, what else?
Gibson, 100%. And there's all this Gibson stuff too that like you kind of think like, oh yeah, you can still get kind of like grabbers and rippers for not too much. That stuff is going to go up. So for sure, Gibson. Also, one that unfortunately just experienced a meteoric rise was Music Man. So, like Music Man, you used to be able to get a late 70s Stingray for like between $2,000 and $4,000, maybe $3,000. I think I bought mine for $2,400. They're easily $5-6 now. Easily.
How long ago is that?
That was 3-4 years ago. They doubled. Yep.
Wow.
Dude,
that is
100%.
incredible.
So then what I do is I look at the stuff that seems like kind of like too good of a deal. Like right now you can get the 90s 5-string Ernie Ball Stingrays for like $1,400. That stuff is going to double.
I've got it. Yeah.
That's going to double in 2 or 3 years. Same thing with like when I bought my fretless Ibanez from the 70s, those musicians, those studio basses and musician basses that were made in the Fujigen, I think that's how you pronounce it, Fujigen shop in the 80s. I think I bought my fretless for $900. They're easily $2,000 or more now. I mean,
what about Rickenbacker? Like Rickenbacker as well?
100,000,000%.
So we've got Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker.
Yep, Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker, Music Man. Sorry, I know you wanted me to make the list.
Music Man.
Hofner for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I bought a 60s club bass years and years ago for $2,000. Now they're $4, $5, $6.
Dude, everybody's pumped. Everybody's like, the saliva is drooling. We've justified them going to at least consider getting a bass collection together, because ultimately they're not going to lose money if they buy it responsibly, right? Next question and final question.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Where do we go to buy them? Are there, like, I look at guys like Andy Baxter, right, who's got like this great shop here in Leeds, and obviously he does vintage basses. That's what he does. Where do these guys get them deals from? Are they just scouring the internet every single day for a few hours looking for deals? Like, what's the score?
Yes. I mean, it used to be, man, I used to know this guy that in the Midwest, like in the breadbasket of America, he would go on these week-long road trips, and he would go into malls and convenience stores and grocery stores and hang up flyers in these small towns that would say, instruments wanted. If you have a guitar, any guitar, I'll pay you cash. Meet it, and then he'd pick some meeting spot, and all these people would bring these dusty cases. Now, I don't know if that stuff is still happening, because that was like right before eBay hit and right before there was all this consumer knowledge about this stuff. Yeah. But at like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist in the States, like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and then honestly, man, even still on Reverb and eBay, like Scott, this is stuff that I didn't go like, I mean, I did get this blue Fender on Craigslist, but I bought on eBay. I just had a feeling about Mustangs. I was like, oh, this is going to get big. Coronado basses, bass sixes, like that stuff for a long time. No one gave a shit about that. They were just interested in jazz basses and P basses. I was like, but Fender made all this other stuff. And then that stuff just starts to just go crazy. So a quick tip for you is, and if this price point is too prohibitive, anything from the 90s, from the early 2000s that you think is cool and you can buy it for $500, it's going to double in 2 or 3 years. I promise you.
That's
don't come back and hate me if it doesn't, but it will.
Yeah. So with this episode, it's been a short one, but we've given you 2 really critical sort of like thumbs up, right? Number 1 is that you can buy like a bass or start your own bass collection guilt-free. Because if you are buying the right instruments, ultimately they will go up in value. That's number 1. Number 2 is now you have a reason to sit on Reverb and eBay and wherever you're looking for like these deals. You actually have a reason to sit on them for an hour or so a day, geeking out over basses with Ian and myself.
Yeah, double art, baby. Double art.
Double art. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Obviously, I asked you last week as well, if you could leave us a review, if you're enjoying the podcast. Leave us a review. Let us know how you've been finding it. You can do that on iTunes or the other places as well. It really helps us get the word out about the podcast. You can also check out the video version of this, which is over on YouTube. Just search Scott's Bass Lessons Podcast and you'll find us. You can be our 501 subscriber. People are subscribing in the bucket load over there. And
yeah,
we're
baby.
actually we're just doing a bad job of promoting it. Anyway, but do that. And and we'll see you next time around. Take it easy.